Wow. So, okay, this is so awesome. Steve Lambert, welcome to Red River Podcast. We talk movies, music, and pop culture. And for the last like 35 years of our lives, we've been watching things that you've been a part of. So this is an absolute treat for us. I know that you have the book, and we were going to talk about that. But welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Hello, everybody out there in the audience, all my friends. Hello to you two gentlemen. 35 years, it's more like 47 years. You might be 35 or less.
40. Well, I'm about to turn 44.
Yeah, I've been in the business pretty close to 49, 50 years. I'm an old man. God bless.
Yes. When I was doing some research, going through the book, I realized that the first stunt job that you had was in 1978, which was the year I was born, which was with Good Guys Good Guys Wear Black with Chuck Norris, and I love the beginning of like how you I guess like how you saw the bigger picture and you're like, wait a minute, you're like, so actors basically get stunt people to do the dangerous stuff for them, and growing up in Brooklyn, you're like, this is all the stuff that I grew up doing, right?
Well, yeah, that's part of it. You have to realize I was a city kid. I resented a lot of things because I didn't understand a lot of things. And when I got this offer to go on a movie with money that, take me 2 weeks, a month to make, to clear, when I got there, it was totally amazement because, when I was a kid, I used to watch old movies with my father and my grandfather, you know, and I was always amazed. I was just a fan, never knew why. I just enjoyed certain actors, certain particular things. And then all of a sudden, I'm in martial arts and I get a chance to go in a movie and I see all this stuff going on because luckily there were like 50 martial artists and stunt people there. And I was just totally amazed. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was like one night in my whole life because I did all those things in Brooklyn, New York, in the 50s.
Canarsie.
You did it for fun, And I never knew a stuntman existed. It was the furthest thing from my mind. I was studying to be a cop. I had a year and a half of police science in college. And so when I got there and I had the visualization of all these guys, the difficulties, I said to myself, I can do that one time, twice as better, 3 times as better. Well, that guy doesn't know. As far as my ability, I far was so much superior than all these stunt guys. I didn't have the knowledge. That's what I was missing. So I was like a kid in a candy store, as I explained in the book. And I just said, I got to try to do this. I want this as my life. I don't know how. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any family in it. Nothing like that existed in where I came from in New York. And didn't have any friends or any people I knew that even, worked in the movie business. As I say in the book, the steps that happened in my life, that's how I got into the movie business. And it was incredible luck and blessings at the same time.
Yeah. And
you paint a great picture too of your childhood in Brooklyn. And it seemed like it's an era of Brooklyn going by. It's so different, but you talk a little bit about, how that informed you as a person and really carried it your whole life.
No, we had no inside games. It was all outside games. And, it was all innocent mischief, the kind of hatred we had was the bigger guys didn't like the little guys. The little guys didn't like the big guys. So there was always a chase. There was always a confrontation. We just knew fists and garbage can lids and stuff like that. No guns and knives. It was, and the next day we would be best friends.
Yeah.
Truth, that's the kind of arguments you had there. The playing, the games, the explorations of different neighborhoods or different areas. I was voted the second best climber of my neighborhood. I tell stories about kids when I was growing up in Brooklyn. It was like the East Side comedies. you young guys may not know what the Bowery Boys or the East Side Comedies were, but that's what it was like. We had little gangs, but they were innocent gangs. And there was a lot of athletics, and there was a lot of, I was a monkey.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
and what I love too, like you do mention, and just like us too, we're also from that generation where I never wanted to be home. Like I wanted to be out. Like there was no way, like, like I needed to be out. Like I would wake up, especially on the weekends or summers, like I wouldn't be home till we had to eat dinner, and then I might even go back out, So definitely. And it goes to show you the action that you created, because now there's so much CGI, but your work is it's so real. Like that stuff, like I'm watching these old movies, like Remo Williams was always a movie to me that I looked at to this day, and I'm like, it looks like everything is there. There was no I'm sure there were camera tricks, but like it was just it looked like such real action, so it's also another, I feel like, thing that doesn't really happen anymore.
No, well, first of all, there was really no CGI back when I first started. And a few years after, we started to hear about it, but we couldn't afford it. I mean, I'm talking, and truthfully, 5 seconds was like $200,000. The companies just wouldn't do it, and that's just, for the camera end of it. It was literally so expensive. Yeah, so it was impossible to do. Even the big time pictures, the $100 million pictures, wouldn't do it because it was too expensive.
Yeah, no, there was
gradually kept on going, but when it started happening, when the expensive movies started using CGI, I looked at it, and to me it was a cartoon.
Yes,
because
it's a cartoon, absolutely.
Yes, and it's there's a part of it, you take The Matrix, The Matrix, fantastic movie for what it was.
Sure.
I enjoyed it, one of the best pictures ever as far as CGI, but as far as realistic, I always wanted to, in my mind, I said, listen, Steve, whatever it was, if I can do this 2 or 3 steps better than the greatest athlete or the greatest stuntman, then I'm actually doing it superhuman. I'm doing it, a lot better than everybody else. So I always try to take it physically to the extremes, using less tricks is possible, more athletics, and more, I take after, my mentors are Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd. These guys did things physically. They were brave enough. They had confidence enough. There's 5 things you have to be a great athlete, whether it's baseball, football, martial arts, stuntman: timing, coordination, distance, focus, and power of the mind. And one of them, power of the mind, you have to believe you can do it. Honestly believe you can do it, and you'll go far, far more than anybody could have believed. Even you would have believed, if you have the belief that you can do it. And that's part of it. And when you keep on practicing that, it gets to be old hat. It comes on just like that. And that's because of martial arts.
Yeah,
I would have had that ability if I didn't take martial arts.
And you discovered you were uprooted from Brooklyn right by your family at a certain age, and you discovered martial arts on the West Coast, correct?
Absolutely. Well, I took about a year of martial arts, a half a year in Brooklyn, and then the place closed down. I talk about that in the book, I think. I took out a lot of stuff because it was too big, even though it's 750 pages or something.
Yeah, it's a life for sure. It's amazing.
Yeah. But I started in Brooklyn, New York, and it closed down. But it was a Japanese style. Then when I came out here, and I loved it, but I didn't understand it. I did it to get out of. My parents let me take it to keep out of mischief, and it was always innocent mischief. So I started. Then it closed down, and I came to California. I resented it because I was more or less, I explained in the book, I won't get into it, but tricked, innocently tricked. They left me in California. They went back for a few years to Brooklyn, New York, straightened out, business, and they were moving here, but I was left with my grandparents. So I resented it. It didn't understand the people, didn't understand the city, the state. It's too spread out, and had no friends. When you grow up in one place, you have friends for life, and I was taken away from all that.
Yeah,
so it took me a couple of years, and then I found martial arts, and I fell in love with it, and that was my life from then on there. A young teen.
And the book, the whole title, From the Streets of Brooklyn to the Halls of Hollywood, the very beginning also too, like you're talking about like timing, the prologue, I believe, is from Remo Williams, and you're talking about like hitting your cues, and you're telling like the people there, like you're talking about you're gonna land on boxes, and talking like I guess you said after that shot, I guess you went up to the director, Guy Hamilton, I believe his name is.
Yes.
And yeah, just like give a little breakdown of that prologue, because I think it's brilliant.
Well, whenever I did something, I would set it up as of Remo Williams and The Adventure Begins. When I first started out, I had to prove to a lot of people my ability and my knowledge, my understanding, most of all, my common sense, because that's a big part of anything athletic that you do. And after about 5 years, working nonstop, because stunt coordinators, when I first started, they were all cowboys. They thought martial arts, as I explained in the book, they laughed at martial artists. They thought we were a bunch of clowns, which threw me when I found that out. I tell a little story in the book about that.
They Call Me Bruce, right? Was it that section?
Yeah, They Call Me Bruce.
Yeah.
You have a better. I've done so many movies and television shows. I don't remember the name of it. But yeah, I was doing a cowboy sequence in a cowboy bar, and I put out all these weapons. The director asked me to bring weapons, and it's a cowboy bar. So the stunt coordinator, Mike Ventrell, a great friend, great martial artist, great talent, hired all these cowboys for me to beat up, and I lay out all these weapons to the director, and all the cowboys see it and they laugh at him. They pick up the broken 3-sectional sticks. What the hell are you going to do with this thing? And then when I rehearsed it with them, they were scared to death of it. If you know 3-sectional staff, or swords, they're not used to having those kind of things thrown at them. It's either fists or chairs or tables or bottles, because most of the stunt coordinators were either gangster type, car guys, or cowboys. Fight coordinators came later on. At the very beginning, a stunt coordinator was the fight coordinator. It encompassed it both, but that's another story. A lot of things changed.
And you can't.
But on Remo Williams, getting back to Remo Williams, by then, the people who hired me had all the confidence in with me. So when I put something together, when I asked for something, or when I said, believe me, this could happen, and they had doubts, or another stunt guy had doubts and mentioned it, which sometimes made me very angry, because I would never say I couldn't do anything if I couldn't do it. A lot of things come from that, jealousy, insecurity, but nobody ever really said that. Well, he can't, very few times. Well, he's going to kill himself, or he's not going to be able to do that. I don't need a cable. I don't need this. I don't need that. Just leave me alone, and I'll get it done. Most of the people had that confidence, even directors, because when directors started seeing me work, or producers started seeing me work, they would be stunned, because I would more or less be able to take over the situation, because it was something that I was creating for the company, even though I wasn't the boss when I was hired by somebody else. They had that kind of confidence in me. Again, it was because of martial arts. When you take martial arts, those 5 things I mentioned, they're so important in martial arts. You do it every day, every day, every day, like an athlete, like like the guys that go into the Olympics, they do it every day. Football players, they do it every day. So, you develop such a unique sense of doing something above and beyond that it comes natural to you. So whenever I did anything on Remo, Remo, I took Remo. Thank God Remo came along because I was getting tired of ninja films, and working for Canon. I wanted to do more.
Yeah.
So Remo came along, and I saw Remo, and I said, "Wow!" I said, "This has got a little martial arts in it, and it's got a lot of unique stunts." And I'm going to be the only stunt guy because I knew the stunt coordinator. I knew the second unit director very well, Glenn Randall Jr., and he knew me very well. So I said, I'm going to be the only one that's ever been on the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the settings for that, even like the cover. Like so if it came out in '85, I was definitely 7 years old watching it in a movie theater. To this day, like I'm just like, like just the scenes, and I think like if I'm not mistaken, you won an award for that. Yes. One of the sequences, right? Which one was it?
Yes, it was the first Stunt Awards.
Yes.
Best high work. Yeah. And I also won for another movie,
Tough Turf.
Tough Turf.
Yes,
and
James
I have a funny
Spader.
story about that. I was going to put up American Ninja 1. And the stunt coordinator of Tough Turf called me up. He's a great friend of mine, Vince Detrick Jr. And he said, "Steve, I'm putting you up for Tough Turf, and I know I'm going to lose if you put up American Ninja. So can you take out American Ninja?" So I took out American Ninja.
Yeah.
And he won for Tough Turf. I did it for a friend, but I would have loved American Ninja to have won, but that's okay. Cute little stories like that, they're great memory.
Absolutely.
And, they're great things. Remo Williams, I mean, working with Guy Hamilton, working with the actors on that show, the seeing things, if you know me, I have a great sense of humor. And there's a lot of things that go on, like the Gene LeBell incident at the Statue of Liberty.
I didn't hear that. Go ahead.
Oh, you got to read that. The chapter.
I read a lot of the chapters because I was going to bring up the you're talking about sense of humor, and I love what Joel Grey did. Like when you went up to him and you were like, you see an Asian man. I think you were Coney Island. And you're like, "Oh yeah, let me bring you to." I love that
they
story.
brought me right from the production office. They wanted me to go down and meet everybody and start teaching Joel Grey and get introduced to Fred Ward. And immediately, because they wanted me to come up, they had no idea. They wanted me to come up with a new style. What would you do, Sin and Jew? What would Joel Grey do? So I needed to come up with a new style, new ideas, or old ideas that I take from other old movies, because that's what always happens. Nothing's brand new ever. You mold and change an idea that you saw someplace else. The greatest thing you see today, isn't a brand new idea. It's an old idea that somebody took and molded it and changed it, to make it look different on screen. That's what happens. But anyway, working on Remo Williams, Joel Grey, going on the set, Joel Grey was full makeup, and the makeup guy was fantastic. Did some fantastic work. And, Joel Grey had a great sense of humor, and, he saw, an idiot like me wouldn't recognize him behind the makeup, and he played it, and he talked like it. And first day on the set, the first minute on the set, you don't want to make any waves. There's 1,000 things a stuntman, a lead stuntman, a stunt coordinator always has to think of. You're kind of a psychiatrist. So you've got to please everybody on the set and understand everybody's personality. So I didn't know who this guy was. Well, I'll take you to him. So, he led me around like a father with a candy bar, and I followed him all through the set until I realized, that this guy is just fooling around with me. You know, they told me, you know, that's Joel Gray, you idiot. You know, everybody
so
had to
good.
laugh.
Yeah. I love that story. I
It's a great-
didn't get to the LeBell Remo story though.
Oh, you gotta, yeah. You know, there's so much in there, you know.
There's a
LeBell,
lot.
as you know, he had a part in it as a bad guy, and he's chasing Fred Ward, and he runs across a piece of pavement that was just poured cement walkway. You remember that in the movie?
I do. Yeah.
Where a guy runs and
Yeah.
and he falls in it, and you see a bubble come up, you know.
Yep.
Well, yeah, the stunt coordinator asked me to set that up, and he asked me when they yell cut to get Gene LeBell out, right? So I got a rope, a rodeo rope, you know, and a ladder, you know, and Gene LeBell and I mean, you know, Gene LeBell's one of the reasons why I was such a success in my early days, because every time he worked, he would tell the people about me, and he would get me on the set, introduce me, and I would get hired.
Amazing.
You know,
yeah.
He was, you know, if Gene LeBell loved you, and he helped so many people, James Liu, Albert Leong, Rick Avery, Jeff Amata, you know, he loved those guys, including me, and he helped all of us, you know. Those people I just spoke about were the guys who first came in as I came in. And as I explain in the book, you know, I explain in the book from when I lived in Brooklyn, New York, came to California, martial arts to the movies, you know, and everything that happened, you know, from year 70, you know, good guys wear black. You say started in 1978.
Yeah.
But I actually did that at the beginning of 1977. That's when it started. It came out in 1978, you know. So, you know, it's always kind of a year or so.
Year before. Yeah. I mean, some movies even get trapped in a longer, for sure. Another interest.
Speaking, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Speaking of Gene LeBell.
Yes. So Gene LeBell. So they yell cut. You know, he runs and he falls like water into the cement. And you see a bubble, and a few seconds later they yell cut. So it's up to me to get him out, right? So he pops up, and you know, imagine trying to stay up in cement. It's pretty difficult, right? So he goes, you know, Lambert, you know, throw me the goddamn rope. And I go, he's got a thing when he works out with you, right? You know, you're on the ground, he's on top of you, and he won't, even if you mate, he won't let you up if he's a close friend of yours, unless he'll ask you who's better looking. All the time, who's better looking? And you tell him to shut up, get the hell off me, you know, and he goes, and he won't let you up, and he'll rub, you know, he's got that 3-day beard, he'll rub his face on your face, and it burns and it scrapes like hell. So you always say, you're better looking, Gene, you're better looking. Segueing back to the, you know, him swimming in cement, you know, he's telling me, God damn it, toothpick, you know, throw that goddamn rope, you know, pull me in. And I go, Gene, who's better looking? Who's better looking?
That's
right?
Great.
And everybody's yelling at me because he can't get out. And I go, no, Gene, who's better looking? He goes, Lambert, you're better looking now, but when I get out, you better run.
He was such a character. He's such a, like, I mean, just, I heard of him first through Ronda Rousey. And then obviously you mentioned in the book, you know, the Joe Rogan thing, but we'll get to that. Go ahead, Brian Langan. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to segue to that. Yeah.
About Gene LeBell, we were so close. You know, I tell a bunch of stories about Gene LeBell and I, probably about a half a dozen. You know, there's one great story in the Stuntman's Association where it cost us like $5,000. We destroyed the whole office because he was chasing me. And I went through windows and I went through, I mean, to get away from him. I don't know if you read that story in the book yet. You know, there's a lot there. So you can
I did. I basically, you know, I read like the bits and pieces that I definitely wanted to. It's. I
guarantee you, every story is a great story. But we were so close, and people used to look at me and say, Lambert, you're crazy. You know, why do you want? He's going to kill you. And I go, don't worry. Very few people. Gene LeBell let people do things to him. Very few people, and I was one of them. I got away with murder with Gene because we were so close.
Yeah.
I was the only one that he ever let on his mats with shoes, with tennis shoes. Nobody else would dare. I would walk on his mat with tennis shoes.
And his pink gi.
And his pinky, that's unbelievable.
Only he can do it, yeah.
Only he can do that.
I was just saying when you mentioned, Gene, that the story where Sam would just mention and stuff, because I feel like I just heard it on Joe Rogan even recently again, that legendary story about Steven Seagal, and it's great to hear that the actual someone who was there.
Yeah,
because it is, that story's been in circulation for so long.
Yeah, there's a few different stories about it, and there's a few guys who are very close friends of mine and literally call me a liar. And it's unbelievable that they would say that. And some people, movie people are like politicians. They're great actors. They're great liars. Politicians make great actors. Movie people can make great politicians, because you look at a person and, they say it's so good, you tend to believe them, but they're not telling the truth. God bless the stunt coordinator. He's a great friend of mine. He's not telling the truth. And there are others who aren't telling the truth. It's a shame. Like I said, his two bodyguards, himself, Seagal, LeBell, myself, and a guy named Lincoln Simon, another stunt guy, were the only people who were there, the only people who saw it. And the story that I tell is word for word what happened. And I made sure of that.
Yeah, which is amazing.
People were, before I put out the true story, people were telling falsehoods and different stories about it for years. They would call me up because they would hear that I was there. And for years I would refuse it. No, 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 no. I don't want to tell the story until I wrote the book. Then I decided to tell the true story. And, he didn't pee in his pants. He didn't go into convulsions, and I explained that. And I'm even, in a way, if you read the story, I feel sorry for Steven Seagal. I have feelings, and for all these years that he's gone through that, he made a mistake. We all make mistakes. Fess up to it. There was a confrontation. You did get put on your ass. You did start it. But you didn't go into convulsions. You didn't pee in your pants. What I tell you in the book is a great story. And there was a confrontation. And, the wrong person, the person who made the mistake was Steven Seagal. The stories that Rogan tells or who's the gal, the fighter?
Oh, Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey tell, I'm a truthful person, and I was brought up to be very humble and truthful and very blessed because, somebody that the only A he ever got in school was in gym. The rest were C's, D's, and F's. That's all I had to tell the truth and to try to make it,
That's important because these things become lore and they're almost like a game of telephone and people add things out. Now I only have to find out the only other one I need to know about is Chuck Zito and Van Damme. I got to find that mystery out.
I think
complete.
I think that was true.
People what disturbs me and makes me feel bad, people with those kind of positions, Rousey and Rogan and the other ones who change the story.
Right.
And why, I don't know, just to make themselves look better. It's very strange, but they're not telling the truth. They didn't see it. They don't know what happened. But the story in the book is the true story. When you're trying to explain a move, because that's how it started, two professionals, two black belts, two masters, being a black belt myself, when you explain something, you go over it slow. And that's what Gene LeBell was doing. He was explaining and walking it slowly. And then all of a sudden, when Gene LeBell gets behind Steven Seagal, and Steven Seagal knows that LeBell doesn't know what's going to come next and goes full blast and sidesteps and forearms him in the balls. What the hell do you expect a guy like Gene LeBell to do? Natural reaction, and he just, the minute his feet, people, I explain in the book, Gene LeBell flew up 3 or 4 feet. People go to me, it's impossible to jump 3 or 4 feet. And I go, well, maybe it is, but he did.
Yeah.
That's how hard it was.
When I first saw,
when he touched the ground, he just sidestepped, and just threw him backwards, put his leg behind him, behind Steven Seagal's legs, and just took him by the front of his chest and neck and just threw him back and threw his foot up, and Seagal just flew up and just landed on his back. And believe me, when I saw that, it's a half a second. And when I saw that, when the bodyguards saw that, my mouth dropped, because I thought it was going to continue. All hell was going to break loose. And the bodyguards were looking at Seagal, looking at LeBell, looking at me. Everybody was looking at everybody else, like, what the hell's going to happen now? And in the midst,
okay, corral.
Seagal just went like this, just nodded his head no to the bodyguards. And LeBell saw that and just reached down and said, but if I did that, like nothing happened. Let me show you what you can do. And that's when I ran off to get the stunt coordinator, because I didn't know what was going to happen. Because it was full speed, go for 4 seconds.
Reading that was definitely one of my favorite parts of the book so far, because it was a story that just, it's so famous, but to read it from someone who was there was amazing. Another thing.
Yeah, and it's a shame it's gonna, I've talked to people who are close to Seagal, and I go, listen, I always use common sense. And I said, it'd be wonderful for the whole world, and even for you two, Gene LeBell and Steven Seagal. I said, imagine if we get you two together and you just walk in as a surprise. First it's Seagal, LeBell walks in, you say, hi, Steven, hi, Gene. And, you start talking like best friends, and you guys act and just laugh about the situation, and hug, and that's the end of it, and just laugh about it, admit it, we'll get somebody to write a couple of funny lines, where you admit it in a funny way, and LeBell will say something funny, and you guys hug, and I make that suggestion, and they bring it to Steven Seagal, and he says no, and we bring it to LeBell, and LeBell says sure, So there's a barrier there that should be broken down before LeBell leaves us.
Yeah.
Because God bless LeBell, he doesn't have too many years.
89 and going for sure. Amazing.
And I saw him a while back, and it breaks my heart. And stuff like that should be straightened out. And swept under the rug, and just a life's experience, and bring the humor out of it, and that's the end of it. But anyway, that's the name of that tune.
That's the name of that too. Yeah, it's in the book for anyone that wants to read it.
There's so many antidotes in this book.
Another funny thing that I loved.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Another funny thing that I loved was when you do one down, two to go, and I guess you end up meeting the trio, Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, and Jim Kelly, and then I think it was Jim that asked you to like throw kicks at his hand, right?
Well,
and then,
first of all, imagine you having no idea. You're going to an office, to see not Jim Kelly, not Jim Brown. Who's the other one?
Fred Williamson.
Fred Williamson. You walk into this office and you see these guys, all three of these guys sitting in an office. I mean, I very few times get excited meeting people, meeting stars, but it was definitely a nail biter. And it was one of the first times I was really nervous, sitting down, having to explain myself, trying to get a show. I knew nothing about the show. I was just asked by the production manager to come in. I knew the production manager. So walking in and seeing these superheroes to me, you know, it's quite a memory. And yeah, Jim Kelly asked me, he wanted to see what I had because, yeah, you know, like I said, the production manager was a good friend of mine. We've worked together before. And, you know, the things that I did, the martial arts that I did, the stunts that I did, you know, I never really thought it was anything extraordinary because I was able to do it and it was normal to me. But, you know, sometimes when people explain people to somebody, you know, they go overboard. Like if you ask James Woods, he's a good friend of mine, an actor, James Woods. If you ask him about me, you know, he'll make me out to be a superhero, you know, which I'm not. I mean, you see what he said in the forward.
In the forward, I love it.
Yeah,
I love James.
You know, when I read that and I said, "Oh, Jimmy, you're going to get me killed,"
Yeah.
but that's what he believes, you know. So guys like that, you know, when a guy like Jim Kelly, you know, as great as he was, hears a production manager rave about somebody that's coming in, you know, he wants to see for himself. So, and it was a thrill to me. I mean, a guy who worked with Bruce Lee, who touched hands with Bruce Lee, you know, who sat there with Bruce Lee. It was one of the biggest honors of my life. And I threw kicks at Jim Kelly. Yeah, and I had a big shit-eating grin on myself every time I threw a kick. And he was happy and I was happy. And I said, "Thank you. You don't know how much this means to me."
I love it. Yeah, that was a great story.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Seeing Jim Brown sitting there with a big cigar, you know, just listening most of the time. Fred Williams did most of the talking. Yeah.
This book is so loaded with great stories. We can't even scratch the surface on the short time we have you. Again, the book's title is The Streets of Brooklyn to the Halls of Hollywood. Please pick it up.
Thank you.
But if we could jump around a couple films that me and Sam are big fans of.
Don't hurry. We can do a number 2.
Yeah. Okay. We would love to. Yeah, we'd love to.
I enjoy this kind of stuff, bringing it out to the people. Maybe 100 years from now, somebody will see it.
Yeah.
But if you could speak, Total Recall, we're huge fans of that film. And that was that's the second time you work with Arnold. He seems like a great guy.
I was blessed, you know, his stunt coordinator, Joel Kramer. We grew up in the business. We started together. We were roommates. So that's how far we go back. So we were so close. When he started with Arnold, whenever I was available, he would bring me on. Not for a day, not for a week, sometimes for months, you know, weeks upon months. And he made me part of the Arnold groupies, you know, the in crowd, one of like, you know, 7, 8 guys. So, you know, I became very close with Arnold. Arnold liked my company, and Arnold and Sven Thorsen and Joel Kramer and Billy Lucas, you know, and, you know, a couple of others. And yeah, you know, I was blessed to, you know, we would play tennis. We would go out to, there's so many Arnold stories and Sven Thorsen stories and Joel Kramer stories.
Those are good.
Because we were so close. So whenever Joel did a movie, an Arnold picture, you know, Arnold would say, "Joel, don't forget, don't be a moron. Bring on Steve Lambert. Don't forget that skinny bones. We need to put weight on him."
I love that. That's great. Yeah. Especially him. I mean, like, that's like in the 80s, like it got if you're in the action world, like Schwarzenegger was it. Like growing up, like there was always Stallone or him, but to me, like Schwarzenegger, I mean, I know we're talking about Raw Deal and like later on other things, but geez, like he was it.
Well, believe me, when I say this, and I've worked with a lot of actors, actresses, and when I say this, there are many wonderful actors and actresses, but you know, I've always been, and I explain in the book, a people watcher. I love to watch, you know, the actors, the directors, and, when I'm just sitting there, what they do, how they act. I explain to you, in the book, about actors, directors like Paul Verhoeven. I tell some great stories about Paul Verhoeven.
Yes.
Sound like a real son of a
other
bitch.
males and females, producers, directors, actors. But when it comes to Arnold, he is probably one of the nicest actors I've ever worked with, from production to in front of camera to behind camera, to craft service. I mean, he's wonderful to everybody. Never a mean bone. And I was, believe me, I was with him, off camera, playing around, in front of camera, sitting there behind camera. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever worked with.
Amazing.
Great humor, great understanding. He loves stunt people, loved to work, enjoyed his craft. And he's a lot of fun. You go out to dinner with him, I tell a few stories, it's just a lot of fun. And it was a very unique time every time I worked on an Arnold picture.
What was it like being tossed around on that escalator in Total Recall by him?
He would, he's a trickster. And, in the book, I discuss in the book the confrontation, and not in real detail, with Paul Verhoeven, but behind Paul Verhoeven was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sven Thorsen, and Joe Kramer laughing at me, because I was trying to explain to Paul Verhoeven that, I can't take these hits anymore. They were like sledgehammers, and Paul Verhoeven was calling me a pussy and all that stuff. And I was calling him a pussy back, and Arnold would be going like this. And, Sven would go, "That's right. Now you're a man, Steve. You're talking back to him. That's what you should say."
Yes, I love that story as well. So recently we had on Sam Furstenberger. Maybe time flies. Maybe it wasn't that recent, but that's kind of how
my dear brother, Shmulik.
Shmulik. Yeah, I love that. You were like, when you first got on the phone with him, you were just like, you're like, I might be Jewish, I just don't know what Shmulik is, So that I love
Shmulik,
yeah.
Well, I tell I don't remember if I detail this story, but I got the job Revenge of the Ninja, and when I came on the show, and every show I did for Canon, there was a tremendous hurdle I had to overcome on every action sequence, because I was involved in it, is after I put it together and I would explain it to them on the set, and you got to realize probably 97% of production on a film, Canon film, was all Israelis. 97%. So, so they would always talk after you explained to them in Hebrew. And I didn't know what the hell they would be talking about. And I felt I always needed, to know, because first of all, it prolonged the time and the waste of energy. Let's all talk in English. You know how to talk in English, 75% in English, I don't know how to talk in Hebrew. So come my way, but they would never listen. They would, after I would explain, they would all talk. And imagine, 7, 8 guys, from the camera to the props to the effects to the director to the camera operators to the first assistant to the script supervisor. They would all talk in Hebrew, and I would be no, talk English.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I just explained. What are you going to do? Wait a minute, Steve. We're going to talk it out first. No.
We'll explain
so this would always go on, and it's very funny when it happens. And I would, okay, we won't do it anymore, but they would continue doing it. Sometimes it would be less, but sometimes it would be more. So it was like a Laura and Hardy sequence. Sometimes it was hysterical, but great fun and a great challenge.
Great fun. And when you first meet Sam, you get presented that script, and then you said you look at the script and there was blank sheets, and you've never seen it because you were in charge of the action sequences, which I thought was fascinating. And for us, listen, before Schwarzenegger, for me, there were Sho Kosugi. Everything Sho ever did, that's what I wanted to watch. And I remember in particular, Revenge of the Ninja, I mean, just him being dragged, like in that scene with that van, amazing. And the Liberty Park thing. Those are the two action sequences that I remember. And Sam told me, I had no idea. He's like, yeah, Steve was the cowboy. And there you are, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's a funny, Keith Vitale, Sho Kosugi, and David Womark, Sam Firstberg set me up big time.
Okay.
Okay, Shmulik, I gave you a bunch of guys because I gave him 25 guys. You pick who you want to be, this guy, this guy, this guy, that guy, and they picked everybody except the cowboy, and they kept on putting it off until on the day, they said, you, Steve. And I said, you got to be kidding. No way. It was their time because we played practical jokes on each other all the time, all throughout. It was a wonderful experience. There are two things we're talking about now: the empty script.
Yeah, the empty script. Yeah.
Empty pages and
the van. The van was like amazing.
But you got to understand, when they gave me the script, and I noticed that there were empty pages before I started on this script. The shows that I was able to coordinate before Revenge of the Ninja, the TV shows or the 1 down, 2 to go or stuff. Whenever I opened up the script and I got to the action, it would briefly give me an idea of the action, which made it a lot easier to come up with action. On the Revenge of the Ninja script, the pages would be totally empty. And I asked Shmulik, why are these pages empty? Were there action pages? We're giving you where we come from. We're giving you where it ends. You need to, why we're hiring you to come up with the action. And I would go, this is the first time I ever had an experience like this. And to me, it was golden because it gave me something nobody ever gave me in the past to come up with a complete scene. And this is what Canon Films always did for me when I did the 3 Ninja pictures.
Yeah.
They always gave me more or less a blank canvas, and I would design the whole sequence, and I would bring it to Shmulik, and Shmulik would make his changes. I want this here, I want this here, and I had an idea for that, and I'd put it in, which is no problem. And then we would show it in Revenge of the Ninja case, we would show it to Sho Kosugi, and he would okay it, and or put in his little things, and then we would shoot it that way. But more or less, it was something I would probably 95% design, because you got to understand, I'm the action coordinator, the action designer. So the sequences I always like to do, getting back to Charlie Chaplin, Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, whenever you saw action sequences with them, they were all long, weren't they? They were all long, drawn out sequences that always kept you watching.
Yeah.
So that's the style of action sequences when it came from non-fighting. I wanted to do long, drawn out sequences like that. So I would have to write it, and then I would bring it to like the van sequence.
Yeah.
From the beginning to the end, the moment he starts chasing, they take off at the van. It was up to me. The fight was over. Sho Kosugi and I put together the fight. Now it was up to me for the stunt action part of it. So I had to write that sequence. After I finished, this comes in, there's a cutaway, a guy's crossing the street, open up his door, the van hits it, the guy goes over, his own car, which was me, because they never gave me much money. So I couldn't hire a lot of people. So I had to pick and choose. That's why You know, a lot of people say to me, I'm always bouncing off to other things. You know, some people say, well, I don't know why he did all the stunts, all the action. You know, he must have been really greedy. Well, no, I wasn't greedy. You know, if I didn't do it myself, you know, it wouldn't have been in the movie because I wrote it, but they wouldn't give me the money to hire the person.
To do it, yeah. And you want it, like when you have that vision, like it's like, oh no, I'll do it myself because this scene needs to be in there. Like the, you know, jumping through the windshield, you know, which obviously, you know, it's like, all right, well, we need to do this. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. You know, if I tell a story in the book, if I was working for somebody in Stunts Unlimited, if I was the stunt double of the lead and I was working for a stunt coordinator, I would have made a fortune on those ninja shows.
Yeah.
But you know, because it was Canon Films, I mean, I made money, you know, no doubt about that. But because it was Canon Films and they let me write stuff and they let me do stuff and they let me create, I just said, well, I can either do it and create and think about my future, you know, show people how I can write and design and it's good practice, or not have it. And I chose to, you know, well, you know, if I have to hire somebody to do something, it costs me $1,000 just for one guy, right? If I did it, I'll get paid 200. It's called an adjustment. You know, you get paid because when an actor or a stunt guy comes in to do a stunt, they get paid. They get put on a contract, and whatever stunt we do, it's above and beyond according to the degree of difficulty of the stunt. We get paid. You know, if you're gonna punch me through a window, you can pay me $300, you can pay me $500, or you can pay me $100. It depends on what you have in your budget.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the show.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and like you said, it's like you're here we are. Like I'm 43, and these movies still, like when I watch them, like they just look so real. Like those three ninja movies, for example, let's say Revenge, Domination, and American Ninja. It's just like you watch certain sequences and it's just so, like you said, there was no CGI. It was just like you're there. Like these are just stunt doubles.
That's why those films persevere, though, because of that reality of it. Whereas like a CGI or a camera trick could date itself very easily as computers evolve and stuff. But that practical, those stunts like that's why those films still endure. Hanging
from a fucking helicopter. I mean, like, come on. Like you're like, that was you, right? Hanging from a helicopter in America.
Yes.
Like that's Eddie. Like no net, no nothing, right? Like you're hanging from a fucking helicopter.
Well, you know, I think of it this way: you do push-up, you do chin-ups, right? And I was able to do at the time like 70, 75 chin-ups without stopping. You know, this is the way I thought.
Yeah.
I have a grip. You know, I have long fingers, big hands, you know, long hands. So I have a grip. There's no way I'm going to let go. There's no way. That's the way I thought.
Yeah.
That's the confidence I had, you know.
That's amazing.
So, you know, when you took me up in Revenge of the Ninja or the Domination or American Ninja, when we use those helicopters or those heights, you know, I would grab, you know, because if I slipped with one hand, if I slipped with my foot, I knew, you know, I could hold with one hand. And I never thought, you know, that I was 60, 70 feet up in the air or 30 feet up in the air, or even if I was 20 feet in the air, underneath me was solid cement, you know. I wasn't, in my mind, I wasn't about to let go. Like in American Ninja 1, with the helicopter, I put handholds underneath the helicopter. I think it was, I might have it reversed, you know, with the Domination. But in one of them, I put handholds because I thought I was going to get tired, you know. But when I got up there and did it, I wasn't tired, so I didn't use them.
Animal.
That's simple, you know. That's when you're in shape. I'm an old man now. I can hardly get out of bed. It takes me 5 minutes.
Langan.
I'm 68 years old now.
What's that?
I'm 68 years old now.
That's
looking good, man.
Yeah, looking good.
Yeah,
Better shape than me.
Just bouncing around some of the films you're in. One of my favorite films, Casino. Fantastic. I love that story with your interaction with Joe Pesci. It's one of my favorite ones in the book. And James Woods, your friend, egging you on, and the whole situation. But if you could speak about working on that film and with Martin Scorsese, it would be great.
Well, there's a great story in the book. There are thousands of great stories. Some are long, some are short, some take me to other things, but I always come back. But one of my favorite stories of that show is I'm a picture taker, and there was a moment where they were all sitting in their chairs with their names on it. Scorsese, Pesci, Woods, De Niro, all four of them. And I told you before that I was always a people watcher. And all through the picture, God bless Jimmy Woods, we're like brothers. He's like my big brother. So he always, even if I had a week of stunts, he'd make sure he'd keep me there for 3 weeks, a month,
That's
because
amazing.
we enjoyed each other's company. If I
that's
didn't
awesome.
have anything to do,
Yeah.
that's how close we were. But there was a moment that they were all sitting together, and I wanted a picture with all four of them together.
Sure.
Because first, it would be a wonderful picture.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a picture with all four of them together. And they all, they're all New Yorkers, New Jersey, Bronx, Brooklyn, whatever. They're all from those boroughs, right? During those times, more or less. So I wanted a picture. So I got my camera out of my stunt bag, and I went over to them, and they were all, like in a half circle facing each other. And I raised the camera, and I went to take a picture, and De Niro looked at me. He goes, "Hey!" And, it kind of startled me, and he said, "Hey, you!" And I put the camera down, and I noticed Woods looked, and he says, "No pictures here." And he didn't know who I was at first, It's at the very, very beginning. Even later on, I didn't take a chance, no pictures here. And I looked at Woods, he goes, and I said, "Sorry." I turned him around and walked away. But those are one of those times that surprised me, because very few people ever did that to me. I have a shitload of pictures. I had a bunch of pictures.
That's great.
Anthony Quinn did that to me too.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, that's in the book.
What'd you do? What film was that with him?
With Keanu Reeves and Anthony Quinn. It was a period picture.
It's a chapter right before the Casino chapter. I don't have the number in front of me.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about that next time.
Yeah. So
there's a great story with Anthony Quinn. I doubled Keanu Reeves in a picture. I can't remember the name of it. Had to do with grapes. It was a period picture. He was a military guy or something to that effect. He meets this woman, falls in love. Anthony Quinn is the grandfather. Can't remember the name of it. But it was a great movie, great period movie. But I doubled Keanu Reeves, and I had to rescue Anthony Quinn. And you read the chapter, and it's a great story. But him and De Niro said,
"No,
what the hell you doing taking my picture? Don't take my picture."
And when
I
you
looked at Anthony Quinn, I said, "What are you talking about? I just rescued you. You just complimented me. I just rescued him from a fire. I'm doubling Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
So I rescued him from a fire."
When you wrote Pesci cursing at you, I could hear Pesci's voice too when he's saying it. And it was it James Woods that egged on kicking the cigarette out of his mouth.
Yes. Yes.
A walk in the clouds. But God.
Yeah, Walk in the Clouds. Yeah. Great movie, great period movie. I love that movie. But when I kicked a cigarette with Pesci, they were all stunned. And what I should have said is, "Can I take a picture with you now?"
Yeah.
But you see, De Niro, he's a weird dude. So whenever I said hi, because I saw him 100 times on the set. I mean, I worked on that picture for a month. So on Casino. So I would see him every day. So whenever you say hi, he'd ignore you. Very strange dude. Genius. Acting genius, but a very strange dude.
Very strange,
He goes method, right? Doesn't he?
Huh?
He goes
What?
method, I think, right? That kind of style.
He's always method and very quiet.
Yeah.
Very quiet guy. Pesci loves to talk to you. Scorsese is a cool cat, you know, and God bless Woods. He's a great.
And
guy.
you got Sharon Stone in there again from Total Recall.
Oh, do you love that story? Did you read the Sharon Stone story?
I did not.
Oh man,
Yes.
yeah, real fast.
Okay, yeah.
Next time, because that's a great story. Because Woods asked me.
I'm gonna
that
do
film
that.
had that you had James Wood has worked with her previously, and I think you said to him you didn't want to.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think you were.
I'm not going to tell you the story. You have to.
Yes, we don't.
I'm going to read it.
After something happened on the set. I'm not going to tell you between her and Woods.
So let's.
No, I read that chapter, but yes, we
read it more
saved that
thorough.
one.
But you know, he said he asked me if I was on the set, and I said no, but I was. I saw it happen, but I didn't. You got to read it. The audience out there. It's called Stephen Lambert, From the Streets of Brooklyn to the Halls of Hollywood. But you know, Woods asked me if I was on the set, and I said no because I didn't want him to be embarrassed in front of me. Something happened. There was a confrontation between Stone and Woods, and I didn't want him to know that I saw. I explained that in the book, but I did see. You know, but I'm not going to tell you what happened. You have to read.
No, I'm going to read it. But there's one more question before, because we'll do this as a part one. I mean, there's so many. I still have so many notes, but I'm going to ask you one last question.
Okay, before the last question.
Yes.
See my hat? Martial Art History Museum.
Okay.
Michael Matsuda, Burbank, California. Come see it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful museum. All martial arts from the greatest stars, action heroes, martial arts stuntmen. You'll love it.
I'll put the link. I'll put the link up with everything that we throw up for sure. So
and excuse me, the Silver Mask from Revenge of the Ninja.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have it there.
Yes.
On display.
Yes.
Beautiful.
That's
the
a
mask that I used 95% in that film.
So I was going to actually ask you about James Woods, but I'll just wait for the next episode. If you want to talk about that mask, like what was it like filming that last sequence? And let's end on that question, like because it's such an iconic last fight scene, and the 80s were like synonymous for that final battle. There was always that final battle in all these movies, and that one took place like on a rooftop somewhere. Like what was it like filming that insane sequence?
Well, first of all, the mask, you know, when people we talk about a mask today, you know, I wish I had masks that are made the way they're made today. Back then, you know, this is all plexiglass, and it wasn't made on my face. You know, the guy who made it formed it to his face. That's how cheap Canon films was. God bless them.
Yes.
So when I got the mask, imagine me dealing with a mask that was formed on another guy's face. You know, it's very difficult. It stuck out, you know, it stuck me. And all it had was a little rubberized, almost a rubber band type deal connected, you know, from ear to ear and on top. And every time I moved fast, it would shift. So, you know, the first day I was miserable. So we came up with an idea to get the two-way tape, you know, two-way thick tape. And I put literally 20 pieces inside and I would stick it on my face and it wouldn't move. Now there was two things I had to deal with is since it wouldn't move, right? If I was fighting you, I'd have to shift either my head first to fight you or my body, then my head. And dealing with that, first of all, was really difficult. Ultimately, it was magic because it forced me to do different types of movements before I got into that fight movement, which made the scene look better. In other words, I had to make a move look like an action movement, when it wasn't, sometimes to see where you were. And sometimes that wasn't 1 or 2 movements. Sometimes that had to be 2 or 3 movements. If you really look at a scene when I'm using, I do movements that have nothing to do with the scene. That's because I'm trying to find you, or I'm trying to find my position, or find you, or move into position without putting a dead spot, So I have to add something to get everything into that play in that situation where I can carry out that next move. So I have to make it one. So, which ultimately made the whole sequence look so much better because I gave the character more animation.
Yeah.
And if you think of it that way and you watch it again, you'll see things and you'll understand things even more. But the trouble with the two-way tape is because it's spaced, the mask from my skin, from my face, about a half an inch, quarter of an inch, a half an inch, that hot breath would hit and I would sweat like crazy. So I'd have to pull it off after I'd always constantly tell Sam, hurry up, I got to pull this thing off, So that mask, that mask hated me and I hated that mask all through that picture. But it was a love affair. We were in love with each other because, that mask gave me a terrific opportunity.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
At the same time, we hated each other because it was a pain in the ass. Sometimes the tape, I would do such a fast movement and it would literally rip off and it would be hanging sideways and I couldn't see and I'd have to stop and it would ruin something before that I thought was so good that I thought we could never get back again because, a lot of the stuff I always did was improv and sometimes you can't replicate that improv. So that mask was a big headache and I always had a difficult time. It was a love-hate affair with that mask.
Yeah, and now it's super iconic.
It gave us a cult film that people loved, and I'm glad that, God bless, Arthur Roberts was a really nice guy, but I never saw an actor that had such a great time on 2.5 months on a film, and he only worked like 2 hours.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Cause he was mostly the ninja the whole time, which was you. So,
you need me, Steve? How you doing?
Yeah.
Shmulik, you need me? This is Arthur Roberts. No, you could just relax today.
Yeah.
He had a contract to be on the set every day. And he was there, not necessarily on a set, but in his hotel room or having fun.
Yeah.
The only time he was in that mask is when he put it on, when you see a close-up of him put it on. And at the end, when it splits,
yeah.
Close up and he falls back.
Yeah.
That's the only 2 times he was there.
Wow. Well, I got to say, I can't wait for part 2 because Steve, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We still have a bunch of like the Eye of the Tiger story, Invaders from Mars. There's a lot of stuff that we were going to get to.
Indiana Jones,
all this stuff. So
much.
Steve, thank you so much for doing it and looking forward to the next one. Thank you for your time. Send me the link or I'll ask you for the link for that museum. And that's it.
And again, people, from the streets of Brooklyn to the halls of Hollywood. It's up on Prime, I assume, or Amazon or wherever they buy books.
So thank you very much, my friends out there. I hope you have a good life. You take care of yourself. Be safe. You two gentlemen, you be cool, and I'll talk to you soon. And Mr. Skeleton back there, I don't know what that's all about.
What?
That's my Misfits mask.
Yeah, I have the same thing.
Yeah.
Look.
It's a Halloween decoration that just forgot to get put away.
It's a band.
You both play brothers, Skeleton Brothers, Halloween. All right, you guys take care of yourself, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Yes. All right. Thank you.